What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about if 2021 is the year that we're going to get a Mafia 4 announcement. So it's been a while since I've talked about Mafia. I miss it. I miss talking about it. I miss playing it, honestly. Sometimes I forget, and I got to be honest, sometimes I forget Mafia Definitive Edition came out this year. Same thing with, I guess, technically the entire trilogy. But as you guys know, I really did enjoy Mafia Definitive Edition. I did enjoy Mafia 2 playing it in the remaster. It was a terrible remaster, but it's a good game. And I never had played the game before, so I really did enjoy it. I'm still looking to go back into Mafia 3 one day. Obviously, there's been a lot of other games that came out. Two small indie consoles came out over this holiday season, so I've been a little busy. But, I want to talk about the possibility one more time going into 2021, because I do think, if we're going to get something, every year is obviously a possibility, but 2021 coming off of 2020 and all of the Mafia stuff, this was probably the biggest year for Mafia. I mean, I get Mafia 3 came out, Mafia 2 came out, Mafia 1, but this was probably the biggest year for Mafia possibly ever. And in terms of the importance going forward, we know how important it is. So I want to kind of recap some of that stuff and talk about next year. Really quickly, I do just want to say a couple things before I get too far in. Number one, Merry Christmas Eve. Hopefully you guys are having an awesome day. Hopefully you guys have an awesome day tomorrow. There will be videos tomorrow, not as many as normal, but I will have videos up. So again, Merry early Christmas for any of the Mafia viewers out there, right? Make sure, as always, you guys are subscribed. Make sure you guys have the bell icon turned on. And if you guys didn't know, I have a Twitch channel. We try to live stream there at least a couple times a week, 2 to 3 times a week. I'll leave a link for that. It's the first thing you'll see in the description below. We'll love to have you guys following me over there as well, okay? So let's recap and let's remember basically what was said this year. I was saying, before even they said it themselves, that, this trilogy is very important in terms of, I don't necessarily think it was fully to test the waters on Mafia to see if there was a possibility for Mafia 4, but as it got rolling and as we got more interviews and as we got to talk, not me, but as people got to talk to the developers, it seemed very clear that that is kind of the plan, that, depending on how this game does, depending on how these games do, we could see a Mafia 4. Now, there were rumors years ago. In fact, I think it's not an anniversary, but I feel like a year and a half ago almost was the talk of Mafia 4 in general. Remember, there's a lot of talk later in 2019 about Vegas, about the 1970s, I believe, going into the 80s. That'd be over 10 years, that we'd really dynamically get to see the city change in that time. We would get to see like businesses and kind of what your mark on the city would be over time, which all sounded amazing and honestly did sound kind of accurate. And however, we ended up getting Mafia Trilogy instead of a brand new Mafia game. So that did it suck? I mean, I guess in a way, I guess what sucks more is unless they're lying, it really does seem like there was no Mafia 4, and that this is something that can happen in the future. Remember, that studio is working on a brand new IP, brand new game that they haven't worked on before. Now, they could very well have been lying, and that IP actually is Mafia 4. But what it sounds like is that new game that they've been talking about for over a year now. And that game is obviously would come first before any Mafia game. But that game is closer to releasing, and that game is real, and that game is not Mafia related. Mafia 4, remember, the most kind of straightforward response to the question was, if Mafia 1 Definitive Edition does well, we'll look at it, and it's got a pretty good possibility for happening. Now, sales have been hard to come by. I haven't really been able to see anything on sales. I did look at a site that is generally pretty okay with sales, at least on the PlayStation, and it seems like Mafia 1, people that have played it, now I think it counts. It counts if you bought it by itself, okay? And it also counts if you got it in the trilogy, okay? Because it counts trophies. It counts the amount of people that were playing it. And it's around 700,000. So it's a little less than 1 million. You probably factor in Xbox. You factor in PC. Maybe it sold 1 million. And again, like maybe the Mafia, but like what did the Mafia trilogy sell? Did that sell 1 million? Did that sell 2 million? And were people just very picky with the kind of game they were playing? I mean, Mafia 1 was the biggest thing. You know what I mean? I would say the majority of people, including myself, that bought that trilogy, and I did buy the trilogy, even though I already own Mafia 3, I bought the trilogy anyway. I bought it primarily for Mafia 1 and then secondarily for Mafia 2, the remaster, because I wanted to play that because I never played it before. So, to say there's maybe 2 million, 3 million people out there that bought the trilogy, I don't think would be true, because then, only a third of them played the game that everybody was kind of like looking towards. So I don't know if those sales are bad. I don't know. I mean, again, like Xbox doesn't sell as well as PlayStation games, so I don't think there's another 700,000 there. PC tends to sell less as well, so we're looking at 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, maybe somewhere in that range of how well Mafia Definitive Edition did. Now, is that good enough for a brand new Mafia 4? It could be. It could be. And I do think that, again, like if it's going to happen, next year would be probably a good year to do it. You don't, I would say, I've been saying this for the full year, for all of 2020, you don't really want to let this kind of hype go. Now, the game was already out, like Mafia 1 came out, and it's been a while, right? It came out end of September. Like I said, funny in a kind of sad way, I do from time to time forget that the game released this year. I really enjoyed it, but there were just so many games, especially, I guess, recently, and obviously so much happening, around the world and all that stuff. Sometimes you forget. But the point is, you can't let the excitement, because remember when they announced this trilogy, I mean, Mafia was everywhere. People were talking about it. Everybody was talking about it. So it really, I would say from like May or June through September, through the end of September, they had everybody. I guess and by I don't mean like they had like tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people, but they had the people that were interested. They had all of them watching all at the same time, and they did a really, really good job with that. There's really, obviously the game's quality aside, they did a phenomenal job with getting that anticipation. So I don't really think you want to let it go 2, 3, 4 years and say, oh yeah, hey, remember when we did that trilogy thing and we said like if one does well or they all do well, like we'll do a new one? Well, they did good enough, so we're going to do a 4. To do that in like 2, 3 years from now, I get it, because maybe you don't want to announce it until you start working on it, but that's an interesting thing because we've seen game developers and publishers do it all over the place. Okay, an example would be like Warner Bros. With Gotham Knights and Hogwarts Legacy. Those games are coming out soon. They announced them. Suicide Squad Kill a Justice League, 2 years. It's going to come out 2 years after they announced it, but they announced it. A recent example is IO Interactive announcing the James Bond game, the 007 game. That game, I guarantee you, they haven't even, they probably started it, but like a couple months ago. That game is not even remotely close. That game is 2, 3, 4 years away, okay? Even BioShock, GTA, these are games that we know are being made, but they're years out. So that's the same, really, honestly, I think the same thing here, where it's like if you announce it in 2021, that's fine. You can just say, hey, we're doing this new IP. Remember, we talked about that. That's first. That's coming out maybe next year. Maybe it's coming out, pretty fast. It very well could, by the way, because they've been making something for many, many years and not really talking about it, right? So that game could very well be in development. And I mean, not just in development, but very, very close to the end of development. So they could say that, and then, following that, they can say, hey, we're doing a Mafia 4. It's going to be quite a while. We just started it. We're working on the other game more, however they want to word it. And you know what? Like, I know I know, like, the wording of it sounds kind of perfect and like, oh, well, stuff like that. But it's like, in all reality, different publishers have done that already. We've seen it in 2020. We've seen it over the past, it happens all the time. Okay, it depends on the publisher. Some publishers like to announce their game and then release it right after. Some are very content with saying, hey, here's where we're going. Now, again, like IO Interactive with the 007 game, Hitman 3 is the last Hitman game. They've said that. They're done with Hitman after that, at least for like a very long time. I feel like they announced 007 to say, hey, for those worried that like we're done with Hitman, it's like, what the heck are we going to do with our lives? Here's the next property we're going to do. Again, it's going to take 3, 4 years, but here's what's coming next. And I think that's why they did that. It would kind of work with these guys, though, too, right? Because you could say, well, we're making a new game, but we know you guys all like Mafia, right? That's kind of what we're known for, and we are doing a Mafia 4. And I think that makes sense. And again, I don't think you want to do that too far from, and that's just my personal opinion. It's very possible they don't actually do that, right? But I think it makes most sense to do it relatively soon. You don't wait till like 2023 and then bring it up again. I think you still have momentum. People are still playing these games just in general. And I always say this, around Christmas time, right, around tomorrow, people are going to be playing Mafia Definitive Edition for the first time. People that never bought it in September or didn't get it for Black Friday. People that are getting it for Christmas. So that, all these games, really a lot of games that people open up for Christmas, a lot of these games are going to be talked about again. And so that kind of enthusiasm is still there. So I think they honestly have a lot of potential for 2021. Again, I love talking about this franchise. I really, really do. I care about it a lot. The products we've gotten, I don't think have ever matched the expectations or like anticipation I've ever had for them, but I think the potential there is so good, and I really do want another game. I want to keep giving them chances pretty much, and I really do hope that we hear something about it in 2021. So again, as always, make sure you guys are subscribed. Make sure you guys have the bell icon turned on so all these videos go up. Follow my Twitch channel if you guys haven't already. It's just called Podcast Now. You can look it up on Twitch, but there's going to be a link in the description below as well. Merry Christmas Eve, Merry Early Christmas, or if you guys are watching this on Christmas, Merry Christmas. Hopefully you guys have an awesome, awesome day, and hopefully we can talk again about Mafia very, very soon.